everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another Stats, Trends, and Picks episode over here on That's Comical. And if you happen to be watching on a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well, it is definitely going to be a very interesting video because there has been a lot going on in the world of comics as well as in the world of entertainment in general, and a lot of it involves comics. Whether it is what's going on with Warner Brothers or what's going on with some of the new series over on Disney Plus for the MCU, as well as some very recent announcements like the director of the brand new Blade film officially dropping out. It's definitely a very tumultuous time. And for me personally, when it came to my reading in September, there definitely was a lot to enjoy, but there also was a ton of frustration. And I'm going to get into some of that somewhere before the end of the year, that's for sure. But if I'm going to talk about serious frustration for the now, it is probably the fact that when we start off with the purchasing numbers for September of 2022, they are very low. I mean, my goodness, only 39 comics. Now, that's something that I am anticipating is going to continue on moving forward, just based around my attitude of some of the comics that are coming out over the last couple of months. But also, and this is not me trying to point fingers at my local comic book store, but one of the things that was really upsetting to me was that some of the comics that I was anticipating to read just didn't make it to the store, or they came to the store damaged, and I'm still waiting for a copy that is actually in good condition for myself to read and collect. So, either way, what's still very interesting is the fact that DC still managed to squeak by for 2 months in a row. I got 14 DC Comics, 13 Marvel Comics. It looks like Image was standing steady, and it's not that the indie labels as a conglomerate took a dive because we went from 8 to 3. It's also because of the fact that a lot of the books that I wanted to read this month either got rescheduled to come out next month or even later, or some of them just didn't get to my store. But anyway, when we take a look at the percentages, as you can see once again, 30% for the big two, and just a little less for Image Comics. And of course, when we take a look at the graph, you can see the big green line for all the other indies going down, but again, you now know why. But Marvel and DC are still very much neck and neck. I don't foresee Image managing to surpass them, although it is kind of interesting that Image starting in January was above Marvel and DC, and then the change that has really shown over the last couple of months has been interesting. But I am really curious to see how the rest of this year is going to go and what is in store for us in 2023. So in the meantime, let's take a look at how I predicted for September of 2022. Now, this was a very interesting month, as I said, because there is a mixture of a couple of things that I predicted correctly, and then there were some that I predicted wrongly, but it wasn't because of the fact that I thought that the books that I thought were going to be my tops for each week in September were bad. It's just because I didn't read them. And the first perfect example was my top pick for the first week of September 2022, and that, of course, was supposed to be Erratic Recharged from AWA Upshot. That book never made it to my comic store, and at this point in time, we're just approaching the beginning of October, and issue 2 is supposed to be coming out. I still haven't received issue 1, but I trust my comic book store. I am going to keep the faith, and I'm going to wait patiently for them to give me the copy of Erratic Recharge number 1, and maybe I'll get Recharge number 2 on the same day. But the first week of September 22 went to Twig issue number 5 from Image Comics. Skottie Young, he did it. It was such a wonderful story. Twig number 5 was, without a doubt, a great conclusion to this short story, and when I finished that book, all I wanted to do was read this series again. I'm planning to read Twig again. I'm planning to talk about it over here on the channel with our friend Andy, but the thing that made me the most excited was the last page of this book. My prayers were answered. Twig is not done. Twig will be back. The question is really going to be what is going to happen on Twig's next adventure, and when. So for the second week of September 2022, I picked correctly. I gave it to Jurassic League issue number 5, although I will still say that I did also read Batman vs. Robin and the Bone Orchard Mythos 10,000 Black Feathers issue number 1 a week later, because it got to me a week later, but both of those reads were still good. I definitely am looking forward to reading the rest of those series, but Jurassic League number 5 Daniel Warren Johnson, DC Comics, knocking it out of the park with this little mini-series. Also curious to see what's going to happen next month when we get to the final issue. Is there going to be more, or is this all we're going to get? For the third week of September 2022, I gave it to what I predicted correctly, and that was Donny Cates' Vanish issue number 1 over at Image Comics. The truth of the matter is, I had no idea what this story was going to be. All I knew was that it was Donny Cates, and it was an original story, and Ryan Stegman was doing the art. Whoa. This was something. This was such a great book. The best way to describe Vanish issue number 1 is, if you like Harry Potter, get ready to see a true dark Harry Potter story. It involves action, superheroes, magic. This is something awesome, and I cannot wait for issue number 2 next month. And for the final week of September 2022, I thought I was going to be giving it to Superman Action Comics 1047, The Return of Kal-El, but it was a good story. I'm definitely interested in seeing what is going to follow with the tie-in to Superman Son of Kal-El, but I am saying that instead of this, I gave it to a book that I wasn't sure about in regards to how I was going to enjoy it, and that was Chip Zdarsky's Stillwater issue number 15 over at Image Comics. We are getting to the end of this story, and along with Stillwater, I am definitely going to say what I really like about a lot of the books that I read was that there were so many cliffhangers, whether it was Stillwater, Department of Truth, even Detective Comics. I just was on bated breath with each of these books when I got to the end of these issues, and Stillwater is still there. I'm still loving this. Chip Zdarsky's done a great job with this story. The third story arc, we're definitely coming to a head, and I'm really curious to see how we're going to see this story come to an end because there's only 3 issues left. So that is how I predicted my September 2022 and how the outcome was. Now let's take a look at what is in store for October and what my predictions will be. I think what makes my predictions a lot of fun is seeing not only what titles I am interested in and what are going to be the top picks, but more importantly, what are the companies that are going to be hosting these titles. So the first week of October is going to give us a real treat. We are seeing the return of Miracle Man over at Marvel Comics. This is a character that's been around for many, many years, and the history behind it, as far as I can tell, is that at one point in time before Miracle Man got discontinued, Neil Gaiman was writing the title, and apparently his title went unfinished. So it looks like Marvel is finally allowing this full story from Gaiman to be told, and we're going to get it started with Miracle Man issue number 0, to which it's going to spawn into the title Miracle Man: The Silver Age, and I am really excited to get a hold of these books and read these books and see what Miracle Man is all about. So I'm very hyped for this specific little one-shot, so to speak, which is going to lead into a full ongoing series. For the second week of October 2022, of course, I'm going to give it to the final issue of Jurassic League over at DC Comics. That, of course, is issue number 6 by Daniel Warren Johnson. This has just been a fun series, and it feels a lot like many of the DC stories in the past. Particularly, I am getting so many vibes of the New 52 Justice League story that was done way back when, and this time it's just about dinosaurs. So it's a different take with a different idea, but still a very familiar premise, and that's why I applaud Daniel Warren Johnson for. I'm really curious to see how this story is going to end, and more importantly, wondering if I'll get the same kind of a surprise that I got from the last issue of Twig. We will see. For the third week of October, I am going to go to Image Comics and give it to Stillwater issue number 16 by Chip Zdarsky, only because of how issue 15 ended. Now we're going to definitely get a backstory based on what I'm seeing here on the cover. It's a beautiful cover, by the way, and it's only going to get me excited for the final showdown between Daniel and Galen. This is going to be interesting, but I'm very curious to see how we're going to finally get what they have teased in issue number 15, the origin of Stillwater. And for the last week of October, of course, I had to stay with Image Comics just because of how much I loved the first issue of Donny Cates' Vanish. So, of course, Vanish #2. This was such a fun, mind-blowing, exciting ride with issue #1, and it's only got me more excited to see where this story is going to go. I mean, I have no idea if we're going to get another issue of crossover at this point in time, but I know that the story's not done. But just knowing that we have something to enjoy from Donny Cates, especially if you're not out there reading his Thor or Hulk or anything else that he's currently writing right now, this is where you need to go. Vanish is truly awesome, and I am just really excited. And that is going to wrap up my September 2022 stats, trends, and picks. And I'm really curious to see what you guys read in the last month, so please put your comments in the box below. Let's have a discussion, and let's see how I do in regards to October. Will I actually have a truly great predicting month? Like, will I maybe get a sweep? I'm still waiting for one of those. Or will I end up in horror, especially with Halloween right around the corner? I'll see you in the next one.